Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be covering Tottenham against Manchester United at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday evening. It's a clash between two underwhelming sides this season. It's 13th against 14th. Not a sort of place either side would have expected themselves to be at this stage. Inconsistent form has been a theme for this Spurs side all season, as they still continue to battle an ongoing injury crisis. They come into this one off the back of consecutive cup losses, a 4-0 battering at Anfield before a 2-1 loss to Aston Villa in the FA Cup. Man United, however, were able to secure their progression in the cup, having beaten Leicester 2-1 thanks to a late controversial Harry Maguire goal, and that meant they have now won 4 of their last 5, so they come into this game on a slightly better run than Spurs. This is actually a game I'm really looking forward to cover. I've got 3 angles of interest that are looking to take advantage of recent changes that we've seen in the team sheets for both sides, so players in different positions that we've become accustomed to. And the first of which is Heung-min Son. So in the previous game against Aston Villa in the FA Cup, this was how Spurs lined up. Son was obviously the number 9 in the absence of both Richarlison and Dominic Solanke, who are expected to miss this game again, whilst Matthias Tel featured on the left wing in his first start for the club, where he also scored Spurs' only goal. Kulusevski started in that number 9 position, Mikey Moore on the right, and Bissouma was benched. I think this is a very interesting lineup that Postecoglou opted for, and the main focus for me is the fact that Son was the number 9. Son's shot data this season is nothing to write home about at all. It's actually pretty poor. He's averaging just 2.36 shots per 90, which by his standards for a player of his quality is way lower than it should be, in my opinion. And the reason being is because he's been forced into that sort of left wing role where he spends most of his time outside of the box, not in those sort of dangerous positions that we've become used to him being in under different managers. However, if he does play this number 9 role, I really do fancy his chances against Aston Villa. He had 3 shots with 1 on target, and I just think he'll be the focal point of the Spurs attacks, which is where he should be, and hopefully he'll look to take advantage of that. So potential angles that I've got is 3.5 for Son to score any time with Sky, which I actually really do like. Alternatively, you could go for a first goal scorer angle if you think his minutes might be limited, although with the current injury list I wouldn't think they are, so I would probably go with the anytime goal scorer angle for Son. Alternatively, you could go for Son to have shots on target. You can go for Son to have 1 shot on target and 3 shots, and the combination of those two comes out at 2.37 with Bet365. So again, given that it landed last game against Aston Villa, an equally tough matchup, I would say, to Man United, arguably a bit more difficult defensively, I would say that looks a decent price. Anything above evens for that I do quite like. Or alternatively, you could go for multiple shots on target. I think if Son is to have chances, they will likely be of pretty decent quality, playing in that number 9 spot. So again, Son does tend to be quite accurate with his shots, and I wouldn't want to put you off backing multiple shots on target. Moving on to my second angle, and it is for Kevin Danso to rack up the fouls. He's a player that I recognise from betting on at Euro 2024. He was a centre-back for Austria, and I would often bet on Austria to commit fouls just based on how aggressively they would press. Now, Kevin Danso, from watching him, was one of the chief contributors to quite high foul totals for Austria, and the reason being is he's a very aggressive centre-back. He sticks tight to the opposition striker, and he's a very physical presence. So in doing that, he can often find himself caught out of position, in places where he shouldn't really be, and then forced into commit soft fouls or even cynical fouls in order to sort of bail himself out. He made 0 fouls in his debut game against Liverpool. However, it's worth noting that Liverpool were completely dominant in that game. Spurs were penned into their own half, their own box, for the majority of the game. They lost that one 4-0. And, with Danso in his own penalty area, it's not exactly a good position for him to sort of be committing fouls. If we look into the preceding game against Aston Villa, he made 2 fouls, so a bit more like it. If we look into his pricing, we can see that Bet365 are comfortably top price, and they're at 1.53 for 1 foul and 3.5 for 2 fouls, which really appeals. Now, obviously, I've just sort of mentioned how Danso is a decent player to target from the eye test, but in that Austria team, he was tasked with being extremely aggressive under Ralph Rangnick, in a high pressing system. So if we look into how Danso has sort of performed in terms of fouls over the course of his career, we can see that he was previously at Lens in League One. This season, he played 12 90-minute games and committed 27 fouls in that. So he's averaging over 2 fouls per 90, which is pretty ridiculous. And it's generally a trend that has persisted over the last few seasons for him. He's been averaging around about a foul per game, slightly higher in every game. So he's a good player to target for fouls, and I think that 1.53 price from Bet365 is one that does quite stand out. He's had one short stint in the Premier League in his career. It was for Southampton. He played the equivalent of just 3.190 minutes, so 4 games. And in that time, he received 2 yellow cards, and he was even sent off. So I don't think there's too much to sort of read into that, given that it was so long ago, given that he only played a few games in the Premier League. But I think it will be quite a step up for him, especially in this game against Man United. He'll have to deal with the likes of a Xerxes or a Højlund, quite a physical presence, who will look to draw him out of position, and therefore I do think fouls are a real target for him. Moving over to Man United now for the third and final angle, and it's for Kobbie Mainoo to register a few shots on target or even get on the score sheet. In the last few games, he's played in a more advanced position. This is how Man United lined up against Leicester last time out in the FA Cup, and you can see Kobbie Mainoo featuring in a sort of left wing kind of position, playing as an inside forward under Ruben Amorim. Prior to that, against Crystal Palace, he played as a sort of central striker, and he also featured in that sort of left inside forward position again in the Europa League against Bucharest. Now, even in this new advanced position, his shot data is nothing particularly to write home about again. Against Leicester, he blanked before being subbed after 64 minutes. He also managed just the 1 shot against Crystal Palace. However, against Bucharest, he had 3 shots, 2 on target, and got his first goal of the season. So I do think him playing in a more advanced position does have a bit of potential. That game against Bucharest does sort of give me that impression. However, it is worth noting that his minutes might be limited, and also his shot data hasn't been particularly consistent. Also, he has got a bit of a tough matchup now against Spurs. However, we do have quite a sort of notable discrepancy in his pricing across the industry, which I would say is normal whenever you get a player playing in a different position than they've become used to. So Mainoo is priced around 1.28 to register a shot with Bet365, obviously way too short. However, you can get the same selection at 1.91 with Unibet and Spudex, so 1.91 for Mainoo to register just a single shot, which is pretty ridiculous if you consider he's going to play in that sort of inside forward role again. Live score bet are at 1.8 again for 1 shot, and those bookmakers are at 3-1 for Mainoo to register 2 or more shots, which again looks a pretty nice price. Alternatively, you can go for Paddy Power. They are at 3.6 for Mainoo to register a shot on target, which obviously you get the bonus of super sub, which could be big if Mainoo's minutes are to be limited, and he might be replaced with a more attacking player like Garnacho, someone like that. Alternatively, you can go for a goal scorer angle, so he's as high as 9-1 to score any time, which again, for a player playing in that advanced position, looks way too big. Or he's as high as 23-1 to be the first goal scorer. If you do think his minutes are going to be limited, maybe the first goal scorer might be a better angle to go for. So that will be all the bets I intended to cover in this video. Just to quickly recap, first of all covered Son to score any time, or to rack up the shots on target. Best price there is with Sky to score any time, or with shots go for Bet365. Then I mentioned Kevin Danso to commit a couple of fouls. Again, best price is with Bet365 for him. And finally, Mainoo shots on target, or to get in and amongst the goals. Unibet are best price with him. Alternatively, I would go for the shot on target with Paddy Power at 3.6. That's an angle I really do like. But as I say, best of luck for any bets you decide to go with. Thank you for your support on this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.